This is the BAWSCA leadership conversation with Nicole Sandkulla and Tom Smegal. Nicole Sandkulla is the only leader that BAWSCA, the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency, has ever known. It's comprised of 26 utilities that purchase water from the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission and for resale to their respective service areas. Ms. Sandkulla joined the Bay Area Water Users Association, which was the predecessor organization to BAWSCA in 1999 as Water Resources Planner, and grew with the agency to become Water Resources Manager and eventually a CEO General Manager in 2013. She has overseen the SFPUC's $4.6 billion water system improvement program, the WSIP. I'm not sure if there's a better acronym nickname for that, but it's not WIFIA. That's what always reminds me. On behalf of, yeah, on behalf of, that's, well, 1.8 million customers outside San Francisco. There's about, I don't know, about 900,000 in San Francisco, but generously. But the majority of users of the SFPUC water enterprise are outside in Alameda, Santa Clara, and San Mateo counties. And so that's the customer block. And so she's been on the case ensuring that the improvement program be implemented on time, within budget, and will meet the needs of users that rely on the system. Tom Smegal is as of December 1st, will be succeeding Nicole as CEO General Manager. For the past 27 years, notice the similarity in terms of years here. Mr. Smegal has served in various roles with Cal Water, Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and Treasurer, and with California Water Services Company and the umbrella California Water Services Group, AKA Cal Water, the second largest retail water provider in the state and the largest that is regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission, which I can assure you is a world unto its own. And actually, going further back, Tom worked at the California Public Utility Commission, as well. So throughout his tenure at Cal Water, Mr. Smegal has had in-depth experience working and directing Cal Water teams that address critical water issues such as drought, water supply, regulatory compliance, capital project improvement, risk management, and emergency response. Cal Water is also, though, one of the, in terms of districts within San Mateo County, has been a member of BAWSCA as well. So welcome.
Thank you.
Now, Nicole,
thank you for that introduction. Yes.
Yes, for you. And it's a relatively simple question with a lot of long answers. So I'm just going to ask it and get out of the way. How have the constituent BAWSCA water utilities changed over the past 25 years, and how has BAWSCA changed with them? And actually, and you changed with them, because it's pretty remarkable, the history of this.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it. And first thing, just to correct, so I am actually the second general manager for BAWSCA. Even though I've been here since the very beginning, the agency's first CEO was Art Jensen. So, and I came on as CEO 11 years ago. So, but both Art and I were with the predecessor organization, BAWA, when I was there in 1999. And I think the biggest change, your question made me think a lot. It's just really 25 years now, BAWSCA agencies and their customers are more empowered to basically ensure that they get a reliable water supply moving into the future, right? I mean, BAWSCA was formed because local elected officials outside of San Francisco were not satisfied with the reliability of the regional water system. It was known to fail during an earthquake. And San Francisco was unwilling at the time to take advantage to fix that. And so they went to the state legislature and passed a bill that forced San Francisco to implement a capital program, like you mentioned in your introduction, the Water System Improvement Program, so that the system would continue to provide water after an earthquake. I mean, that was pretty rowdy action, if you think about it, right? From this very, at that time, loosely formed group of water agencies that really just were glad that the water came out of their tap and they paid San Francisco and they didn't want to deal with it, to saying, hey, this is not acceptable. We need a reliable supply and you're not taking care of it, San Francisco, so we're going to go to Sacramento. And not only are we going to force you to fix the system, we're also going to form ourselves as a new public agency to have greater authority to do things like this for the region. So, I mean, that's just a tremendous, to me, a tremendous example of local leadership for the betterment of their constituents. But I'm just proud to be part of it. It's been pretty wild.
I'm off camera, but I'll ask. Well, one thing with the Hetch Hetchy system, famously engineered gravity flow system, but a lot of that legislation referred to had to do with earthquake issues, did it not?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. The Hetchy system crosses every major earthquake fault in the Bay Area. I mean, we laugh about it at the time. We were like, okay, so we've got the San Andreas Dam that sits on the San Andreas Fault, the Calaveras Dam that sits on the Calaveras Fault. It also goes across the Hayward Fault. Faults make great valleys for reservoirs, right? But our technology and our knowledge today is better than it was in the early 1900s when most of the facilities were built. So we knew that that system, after Loma Prieta, everybody knew that the system was going to fail. It wasn't a question of whether it was going to fail or not. The question was, how are we going to deal with it? And, this is a region that is highly reliant upon one single imported source. So it's important that that source remain reliable, which is really what WSIP did. And, that's been, if you think about where I sit today, right, after my 25 years here at BAWSCA, and people this last couple of months have been asking me, like, what do I think are some of my greatest achievements? WSIP, being part of that legislative process, being, really the public servant to help make that happen on behalf of the water users, and then also having the job of monitoring San Francisco's work over time, right? Massive capital program, a city department infrastructure that was challenged to try to implement such a thing. I was tasked on behalf of all the users outside of San Francisco to make sure that that program was the right program, was the right suite of projects, that it was being implemented, on schedule and within budget. If there were changes that needed to occur, that we were comfortable and confident about them. A great example of that is the Calaveras Dam project. Couldn't even have been 25% into the project. San Francisco and its contractors found a feature of concern, which is never a good thing when you're building a dam. And they found, an ancient landslide that then had to be addressed in order to continue to work on the project. A massive change order, significantly, I think it doubled the cost of the project. But BAWSCA was engaged the entire way so that we could affirm to the water users, your money is going in the right place. It's being done, appropriately, and you are going to get out of it what you want, which is assurance that your water supply is going to continue to flow through this regional water system within 24 hours after an earthquake. I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment and something I'm really proud of. And something the agency is very, very proud of.
Yeah, and so I wanted to ask you, actually, BAWSCA constituents really run besides Cal Water and Stanford, I guess are two outliers, but they range from in big time difference in population. I mean, Brisbane, I mean, I know Brisbane's planning to get bigger, but I mean, they're under 5,000 people. And Alameda County, I mean, is like 344,000, and then there's all the cities in between. And so here's the cat herding question. How have you kind of dealt? I mean, obviously they have somewhat different priorities or possibly, it's kind of tough keeping a kind of a coalition together that's so varied.
Yeah, I remember from my first day starting, I grew up on the peninsula. I grew up in Burlingame. So when I came to this job, I had a lot of knowledge about the region as it was. And these differences among the agencies are kind of one of the most exciting parts of the job for me, because their differences are what make BAWSCA stronger together, right? Because we have such a variety when we're talking about things external to us. We have experiences all across the map. Because like you said, Dennis, we've got, small cities, Brisbane. We used to have even smaller community districts. I mean, we had some that were, I think, 1,500 customers at one time. And then Alameda County Water District, and we've got City of Redwood City and Hayward. I mean, water agencies that serve more commercial and non-residential, some that are all residential, university, right? So, but they all share the same source, the regional water system. And so we focus on their commonalities rather than their differences in trying to pull them together. And they have a strong desire to work together because they see the benefit of that coordinated action, right? Going back to that legislation, I mean, that is the single largest benefit, right? They saw, hey, we can come together as a group of, what were at the time considered just kind of measly little suburban communities, right? We could come together. We could go to Sacramento, advocate on our own behalf, and force, big San Francisco, one of the biggest players in the state, to do something. So they really look to that to say, hey, we can do this if we focus on the things that are important to us. And so we spend a lot of time doing that and focusing on those things, getting to know each other, having the opportunity to understand why your neighbor is different from you. And it's weird, you would think that, I mean, for example, the people that run the city of San Bruno's water system, right? Their public works director, you would think that they would know a lot about Sunnyvale, but that's not normal. And so you have to foster that education, and it has to continue to stay current. We have to meet together. One of the most contentious things I did recently is I forced them all to come back to meeting together in person, because we all got very lackadaisical about meeting. And so we would meet once a month, but we met by Zoom for a very long time, after COVID. And it was like, look, if we want to continue to do the work we do, we have to start meeting together. We're all going to have to come together. It's been a couple of years now, but someone just mentioned to me the other day, they're like, well, we wouldn't be where we're at today doing some stuff if you didn't force us back into the room, Nicole. So thank you for doing that, despite the fact that everybody was less than pleased. But that's a big part of the herding the group, right? Focusing on the things that bring them together, but also getting to know each other.
Yeah. So I wanted to get, actually, as you were talking, I was thinking in terms of the capital project, as far as the pipes, the new pipes, that project took a number of years. I mean, I know I've seen it. I live very close to and are constantly around the pipes going up to the reservoir. And but And obviously, too, that's an issue about, water is still relatively cheap. Pipes, however, are pretty expensive.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
exactly.
I just wondered, and just overall looking back about, kind of biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome, and initiatives or projects, you're kind of most proud of. And I'll throw in a third thing is kind of advice for your successor.
Well, I do think it's this idea of bringing the group together to find the solution that almost you thought was impossible. Like if I have to think of a through line on BAWSCA and its work and where those big successes come, there are the things that we thought weren't possible. No one, I mean, I guess we thought we could do it, but when we went to Sacramento to force San Francisco to fix the system, honestly, I mean, that was the legislature was on support, but San Francisco was opposed. At the time, John Burton from San Francisco controlled Senate, right? It was like, how is this going to be possible? It was pretty believed to be impossible to get that passed, right? But we focused on it and we worked to achieve a great result. So focusing on those results together, we've done that as a group where now more than once, this group of agencies has unanimously agreed at a public policy level. So their boards and their city councils have agreed on how to share limited supplies during a drought from the San Francisco system. I mean, what an impossible task when you think about it, right? It's like San Francisco tells you, you get this much water, and now the 26 of you get to decide how you want to divide that up. It's like asking 26 toddlers to divide up a piece of pie, a pizza. And they have to all agree upon it. And yet they can do that, right? So it's focusing on the results and moving forward. And that's really been the key to success. So, the WISP for me and these drought allocation plans are things that if I lingered too long on it, I would think that they were not possible. But yeah, we have proven to be able to do it. So results focused is really my biggest advice for Tom moving forward is focus on results and bring the group with you.
Well, Tom, you have led a parallel life, at Cal Water, and so both. I mean, obviously you've been aware of Cal Water's membership in BAWSCA, but I was struck by remembering the phrase. I think it was Matthew Arnold. The past is prologue, and so how have your time? How's your time at Cal Water laid the groundwork for taking over BAWSCA?
Sure, Dennis, great question. I think that if you think of BAWSCA, as you said, in terms of large agencies, small agencies, different service areas, different customers, Cal Water really has all of that internally. I've been supporting the organization both in the regulatory space and in the CFO role for these 27 years. And we have districts that are as large as 250,000 people and districts as small as 500 people. And we've had every water problem under the sun in terms of access, water quality, water reliability, and regulatory issues, community issues, dealing with coalitions. I feel like it's uniquely prepared me for a role at BAWSCA because I've seen a lot of these things come up before. I've worked on alternative water supply arrangements within the BAWSCA service area on the Apple II campus. And so I really feel like I know a lot of the issues. I've been really steeped in California water issues my entire career. I've lived in the Bay Area. I was born in the service area in San Mateo, but I have not much lived in the service area. I live over in the East Bay. But I have a really comprehensive knowledge about the water issues that have been going on over the last 50 years or so in the state. So I really look forward to the opportunity to focus really heavily on water policy, because I think if you look back at my roles at Cal Water, I had that as an aspect of my role, but the function was a little bit different. So that's probably what I think prepares me the best.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it, that thinking of the various districts in Cal Water, that they yeah, there's a number of different sizes, and obviously they're spread around geographically. You know, I mean, Chico or up around there
Yeah, like
is different from
very,
Bear Gulch.
yeah, exactly. Different water sources, different populations, different types of customers. We serve down in Southern California areas with a lot of recycled water already. We serve areas that are supported by groundwater or that buy water, obviously from San Francisco, BAWSCA districts, and that sort of thing. So just a lot of different things that have come before me, decisions that I've had to make as part of a team, promoting and advocating for a particular position to try to push a city council or someone else, public utilities commission, to make a decision that helped our customers. So really, I mean, I guess another aspect of that is advocacy. BAWSCA is really an advocate for the member agencies' customers. When you think about what we're doing with respect to the San Francisco PUC and the Hetchy system, the oversight role, both in terms of rates and finances, as well as capital improvements, reliability projects, and that sort of thing. I've done a lot of that over my career at Cal Water in the regulatory field, and then prior to that, working as an advocate for the public at the Public Utilities Commission, the California Public Utilities Commission. And so that hat comes naturally to me as well. I kind of know where to look for things, where costs or projects are going wrong. So hopefully that will be applicable to the role at BAWSCA as well.
Yeah, it sounds well, I mean, I asked about how does your experience enter this role, and obviously I think there's a lot that you kind of bring, and then based on even the kind of structure or composition of Cal Water actually is more similar than not, strangely enough. I mean, I was thinking, oh, it's a big, it's a big private IOU, but its component districts
Yeah, very
kind
much
of
so.
mirror a lot. I wanted to get to more on the planning realm, and you mentioned kind of a focus on going forward on policy and advocacy, and obviously there's the transition plan. I mean, first thing, and which has been moved up, and Nicole will be on for a bit as whatever, transition manager, whatever you call it.
Transition manager of some kind, yes.
And
title unimportant, just here to support Tom.
And so that's obviously just within the short term. There is a longer term, plan. I mean, in terms of the strategy 2050. And I don't know if you want to go through the components of that, or what maybe the highlights of that on our limited time left.
Dennis, we're just getting started on the 2050 strategy. We do have a scoping plan, and we have a consultant that's going to help us with that. We're really going to start that in earnest at the beginning of next year. And really, we've done this once before. And Nicole, remind me, that was a strategy, maybe a 2020 strategy or 2015 strategy?
So it went out to 2020.
Yeah, so
2020 or something. We finished it in 2015. It's been some time. Yeah.
So, what we're really looking at is what's BAWSCA's role? What can BAWSCA do? What should BAWSCA do on behalf of the member agencies to improve and ensure water supply reliability? And obviously, we have the major role with respect to San Francisco and the enumerated responsibilities that we have there. But if you look back at the enabling legislation, we have the opportunity to do water supply projects ourselves. We can go as far into the mix as building something ourselves if we were to want to do that as a board of directors and a set of agencies. I think we're more likely to end up as a facilitator of projects, local projects that help supplement that water supply. We're really interested in San Francisco's alternate water supplies to meet their obligations because of recent regulatory actions by the state. And so there's a lot in there, I think, that will guide us as we go forward for the next 20 or 30 years in really having the board, the policy arm of this, the board, tell our organization, the staff, what they would like us to do, and how they would like us to go about our business. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be really fruitful. And I don't know if Nicole has anything to add, because obviously she worked on the prior document. But I'll let you talk too.
Well, yeah, well, I think the timing is perfect, you know, in some ways, for Tom to come on board now, because this will be the document that will be what forms what BAWSCA does for the next 30 plus years, right? So that's what the last strategy did. It helped get us to here, and get us in the work that we've done on water conservation, examining transfers, examining independent participation in Los Vaqueros, examining groundwater, brackish water desal. All of that work was what was identified through our first strategy effort. And it became very important in our work plan and the results that we delivered. And so with Tom coming on board now, he's got an opportunity from the very, very beginning to be not just a participant, but to really shape where those results go, and to help fit them within the overall context of what the agency and the results they're going to have for the member agencies, but most at the end of the day for the water customers, right? Because that's really who we're responsible to. So I think the timing is perfect.
Yeah, and in the future, I would like to get into, as more things get more fleshed out. Just for instance, I know the SF Peninsula pure water project and other things on board. I mean, the prospect of like a 12 million gallon a day facility or something is quite interesting, and is interesting, all the partners in that. I mean, was SFPUC, Silicon Valley Clean Water, San Mateo Treatment, and it looked very like a very interesting project. And I know there's other kind of other options and similar kinds of thing. One quick question, actually. I know that SFPUC has had trouble. It was at their Oceanside plant, and
Right.
that's been apparently a case that is going to the Supreme Court because of their
Yep.
kind of jurisdictional issues with the State Water Board. I don't know if you had any updates, or do you see that affecting BAWSCA at all?
I don't anticipate that to affect BAWSCA at all, right? That is San Francisco's, their wastewater plant. They've got a combined sewer system. That's part of the challenge they're dealing with in the city. The pure water projects that San Francisco is investigating as part of its alternative water supply plan, which is really independent of BAWSCA's strategy. So this is San Francisco's plan about how it will meet its obligations to the wholesale customers, right? So they have an obligation to provide a reliable supply. That's being impacted, as Tom mentioned, by state regulations. So San Francisco is looking at where's our next investment. And those pure water projects are certainly the ones that a lot of planning has been put into. So there's the Peninsula Pure Water. There's also the one in the South Bay, at the South Bay Water Recycling Plant, in partnerships with San Jose and Santa Clara. And then also over in the East Bay with Alameda County Water District and Union San. All three of those are moving in. They're at different stages, but they're all in planning to kind of get to the point of decision making. And they're really important. And the BAWSCA board is actively engaged in looking at that planning effort. One of the things we hear a lot of questions about from the public as we talk about this next level of investments is, you know, how do we make sure we make the right investment and the right size of investment so that we can get what we need for reliability, but at a cost we can afford. And so I think that's going to be one of these big challenges moving forward for BAWSCA. And to be honest, I'm so excited, Tom, with his background. He's got a much broader background than I do in financial things. You know, I have a narrow window on finance and a bigger window on engineering, and Tom's got both. And I think the timing is perfect for the agency because financial impacts and being able to really drill down and understand and then subsequently explain to the customer about why this is the right investment is going to be critical for success. And I think Tom's going to have the right set of skills to do that for BAWSCA.
Well, very good. I'd like to end. Sorry, Tom, if you have more to add.
No, I was gonna I just agree with Nicole there and say I've had experience both in terms of rate design and ratepayer communication. That's the fundamental thing to think about is how do you communicate these issues to the ordinary citizen? And I think BAWSCA has a role there as well. We're a resource to the communities that are members of BAWSCA, that we can come out and give presentations and explain why we're doing a certain thing or why we're watching a certain way of how San Francisco is acting and prioritizing projects and resources. So that's a big benefit that they have from the BAWSCA organization as well.
Yeah, Nicole, you did mention the water purification that is going on now and future planned, as you mentioned, the brackish desal, which we had a Waterpalooza session a couple years ago on the breaking news that Alameda County was actually very quietly running a brackish desal plant. And I can't tell you how many people have told me afterwards that, like, I never knew this. And so it was interesting hearing.
Yeah, well, you know, as water utilities, I think part of our, you know, we prided ourselves for years on not being in the papers, right? Nobody wants to be the water utility in the paper because usually it means a bad thing. It means, you know, then you're Flint, Michigan, right? Or you're, you know, you're one of these communities that doesn't have water following the hurricanes. And so, but I think we also do ourselves a disservice with that. And I think that's part of this communication moving forward, because you're right. Alameda County Water District has had an incredibly successful brackish water desal plant that's been very cost effective for its constituents. It's increased their reliability. It's really done all the things it's supposed to do. And I think that's, you know, a good example of how we think about what we need to do with our next investments. You know, when we went to the state in 2002 and we got support from the region to do that, we told the water customers, your bills from San Francisco, your water rates are going to triple. Mm-hmm. That was going to be the impact of that WSIP program. And at the time, we had a massive education, and I still hear about it today. I was just down at the Palo Alto City, the Utilities Advisory Commission, and they referenced that. They said, we know our water rates are high today because we made those investments to make sure the system would be reliable following an earthquake. Our question, they asked me, is how do we know that the next investment's going to be right? So we have to have that same level of engagement so that we get the buy-in from everybody, so that 20 years after they say yes, they're still like, that was the right decision. Mm-hmm. And we've had BAWSCA in place to really help us get it to be correct. That's success to me.
Well, yeah, that's part of, I mean, typically it's pointed to as a governmental thing, but in this case, I would say it's more, almost more of a regulatory and joint power kind of, you know, the quasi-government aspects where there's this responsibility of looking down the road and advising, you know, constituents, I mean, citizens, ratepayers, about the future and what's coming up. And towards that end, I just wanted to close by asking the magic wand question. This is actually the Felicia Marcus Memorial magic wand question. And I even somewhere have a picture of her with a magic wand. But if you had a magic wand and could do one thing about California or Bay Area or, you know, BAWSCA territory water, what would you do? I'll go with Nicole first.
I'm gonna let, okay. So mine is, what I would hope is that we have such a depth of technology and knowledge here in our region, right? Silicon Valley. We've seen how technology can make a significant difference in reliability. My magic wand is that that technology uptick for water explodes so that technology can be a serious solution to part of our climate change issues about reliability. I don't know what that technology is, but we were just talking about potable reuse. You know, 10 years ago, we were not talking about that. And a major part of that was the technology, because technology drives cost effectiveness. And so I hope that, you know, we can continue to foster and support the expansion of technology on water supply reliability for our climate change needs.
Dennis, I'm going to go in a little different direction. And for the last 10 years, we've been trying to implement the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act of 2014.
Sigma.
I think regulating groundwater in the state of California is going to be the single biggest positive impact on the state's water supply and the water supply flexibility and connectivity that we're going to have in our lifetimes. You know, forget the Delta tunnels, forget all the other reservoirs that anybody's trying to build. I think that having a legal regime over groundwater, and it's set up through these sustainable groundwater management agencies, will allow entities to build projects to, for instance, capture stormwater in ways that right now there's no framework or there's very little framework to allow you to have confidence that whatever water you put in the ground is going to be water that you can pump back up in a drought or in an emergency or seasonally. I think if we can fix that problem, and we've slowly been trying to fix that problem, if we can fix that problem, you're going to see a whole new regime of water in the state. Because BAWSCA and San Francisco and many others are going to be able to bank water in unused groundwater basins, underused groundwater basins for those drought supplies. We're going to be able to capture those storm flows in a pretty cost-effective manner compared to some of these other sources of supply. So I'm really excited about that. I know it goes slow, and I know that there's lawsuits now with some of the farm management agencies down in the Tulare Basin. And I don't know where those are going to go, but my wish would be that those get resolved and we get to a point where we can have confidence as someone investing, as an agency investing, that if I build retention facilities and put water in the ground, I'm going to be able to get that water out. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I would agree with you too, because it specifically in the BAWSCA territory, groundwater is not a huge thing. It's not like Orange County or
Right.
but in the Central Valley it is, and it obviously the more resources they have in terms of water access there, the less, I mean, it has a beneficial effect to adjacent geographies. So,
well, and
it's
even
good
if you
for
think,
all, basically.
yeah, even if you think about the transit of water from Hetchetchee, if we can store groundwater in areas near the pipelines, near the facilities, we can do like-kind exchanges.
Right.
We can work with irrigation districts in a much more effective manner to manage that water resource collectively, surface water and groundwater. Holistically, kind of that one water concept that you've, I'm sure, heard of. That's really opens up a lot of possibilities for us.
Yeah, strangely enough, this parallels conversations I've had recently about microgrids. And
very much so.
strangely enough, but well, anyway, Nicole, congratulations. Tom, Congratulations,
Thank you.
obviously for different things, but have a very happy holidays and a happy transition. And we'll definitely be keeping track and keeping in touch on this and a whole bunch of other issues. So thanks again.
Great. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks very much.